guys? Girls? Oh, I can't. You get offended? Did I offend you off the bat? I can't say that anymore.
Offended.
It's
Already
2019, and I can no longer say
all the
guys to describe a group of
Right.
girls. Okay. Welcome, ladies. Sofia and Cora Stokes with us. So we're talking about something that is something that, honestly, I'm surprised that we've never talked about on our podcast or really done much about, but the topic of parenting teenage girls. And so I might chime in on this one here and there.
Okay.
I have a couple of teen girls myself, but I'm really interested in the mom-daughter dynamic, especially in this day and age where, 50% of kids are coming from fatherless homes, stuff like that. Typically, the mom is still around in the picture and all that kind of stuff. And I think teenagers, especially teenage girls, are facing some heavy stuff today, things that other generations haven't faced in a long time. So I'm excited to kind of dive into that. But let's just a little bit about you guys. So Sophie, you have 9 kiddos.
Right.
And where does Cora fall in the mix of the 9?
Well, of the 9, I have 6 boys and 3 girls, and Cora is the middle daughter of the 3 girls.
And how old are you, Cora?
I am 14.
14.
Had to think about it.
And so how is high school so far?
A little bit stressful, but it's pretty fun. It's fun to have different perks for being older and stuff like that. But it was really scary going into it, and it's kind of, I don't know, still easing myself into the high school dynamic.
So what are some of the things you do? What are your hobbies? What occupies your free time?
I do cheer and soccer and a lot of music.
A lot of music.
Goldbergs.
Yeah, and I watch the Goldbergs.
A lot of the Goldbergs, of course. Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. Well, so I'm gonna dive in with some questions, and this is free form, but I really just want to get just honest answers and opinions. These are a lot of questions that we hear out there, or sometimes parents ask us. So the first one, just dive into here. Really want to zoom out and look at the challenges that teenage girls are facing today. From your perspective, from a mom, from actual high schooler perspective, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges teen girls are facing today?
I definitely think one of the biggest is to appear popular on social media, or even not popular in the sense that you have a lot of followers, but with the followers you do have, to appear that you have yourself together, and to fit into this certain stereotype of what a pretty girl should look like and stuff like that. So I think that's a huge pressure that most girls today feel. And then as far as high school goes, there's definitely a lot of pressure for a high school girl to have a boyfriend to find her security in and stuff like that. And to have like a good clique for her to always go to and stuff like that. So everyone will know when they see her, oh, she has a reputation for being in this group and stuff like that.
When do you feel like that pressure started? Was it 9th grade? Was it 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade? That pressure to appear a certain way on social media or to have a boyfriend? When did you start feeling that, and when did it pick up?
For most of my friends, I saw that it started happening around like the end of 6th grade, beginning of 7th grade, like as you're going through middle school. And then it kind of, when you're in high school, you come to the point where you're satisfied with where you're at, more or less. Like, obviously there's some people that are never satisfied with how many followers they'll have and stuff like that, but you become secure in your friend groups, and also you start realizing that you have other hobbies that should take up your time more so than that.
So you feel like the pressure maybe eases up just a tad as you transition into high school in those areas?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't go away, and I still feel that even though I have other stuff to take up my time. But from 7th grade to now, I can definitely say that I have a lot more security with where I stand in those things.
Gotcha. If your friends were here, what do you think? Do you think would they say something else outside of just those two? Would they throw in a third category? Friends that you're struggling with, or whatever friends that you have and what they're struggling with.
I think there's a big lie that most teenage girls believe, which is when you suffer from depression, which a lot of girls do, that you should cover that shame up. So I definitely have a lot of friends that feel that pressure and they turn to unhealthy things to cope with depression, but there's this sense that you shouldn't let other people know you're depressed because it's this sickness and you're a bad person when you're depressed and stuff like that. And I think that's a struggle that most girls won't let show when they're going through it.
So that's good. So I'm hearing that a lot. I hear the statistics now are like 1 in 5 teens struggle with depression. And there's a lot of questions out there about where that might stem from. Is it the overconsumption of social media? Is it the pressure to look a certain way, or to have boyfriends, or all those? What is leading to that kind of sense of loneliness, isolation, depression, so forth and so on? And I don't. But maybe that's a good time for Mom, you to chime in here. What do you, outside perspective? What do you see?
Well, I think Cora did a great job answering those questions. You did awesome.
Great job, Cora.
Yeah. So I see a lot of the similar things that, like Cora said, although I would say that those were the same things that we struggled with. Although we didn't have social media as the component, we still had a lot of pressure to have a boyfriend, and what does that mean as far as our status goes, as who we were, or how cool we were, or how beautiful we were, how accepted we were, really, is what it was talking about. And I do think the timeline is the same. It was right around 6th grade that was a real shift, a true shift. At the same time, I think the hormones and all of that insecurity, coupled with the pressure to be significant in the eyes of other people, whether it's with your teachers, how well are you achieving something, because I think we get a lot of significance there as well. And along with our friend groups and our guy friends, and then our hormones, it's just a whole big recipe for confusion. And I think depression is a real thing, and kids, I know I was severely depressed, and I always thought it was because I had a rough upbringing, I had a hard home. But the truth is that even from a stable home, your kids can become depressed, and there's some normalness to that. And I think it catches parents off guard because they think, well, because we have a stable home, why should our kid be depressed? And the truth is, it's just difficult growing up. Growing up is hard, and it's confusing, and it's part of it. So it's never convenient. I know for me, that's a big thing. Anything that slows me down or takes my, it takes more effort, which dealing with depression does take more effort. But the reality is, this is a teenage time period that is very, very prone. A lot of times you can work through it and it will pass on its own, and sometimes you need more than that. You need outside help.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I mean, young people today, and the kind of thing that we like to talk about here at Catalyst, is just the basics of identity, purpose, belonging.
Right.
Like, as a parent, where are our teens getting that from? And how are we creating that sense of identity, purpose, and belonging for them? So good stuff. So let's talk about some of the dynamics of the relationship, like parenting teens. I always love to hear about epic wins and fails. And I'm sure you guys have got some good stories, but can you share us some examples of great parenting wins or fails that you guys have had together?
Well, if you're talking about just Cora and I, that's a little bit interesting.
Hard to pinpoint just one.
Yeah, I feel like right now we are definitely in the beginning part of getting through this. We have a lot of hard times. Most of our times together are volatile. Neither one of us wants it that way, but I had to go through that with my oldest daughter as well. And it's kind of funny because I think Cora, she doesn't envision my oldest daughter and I really truly having these same time periods, but we did. She was just much, much younger, and we didn't discuss them with her because she was at a different age group. But we did have to ride through that. And it is the hope of my relationship that I have with my older daughter that, okay, we're going to get through this. And this does come to a changed place, right? But we are in the thick of it. We are not on the other side yet, and we often don't see eye to eye. We often misunderstand each other, and it's hard. It's a tough place to be.
All right, so Cora, and I love you guys for your courage to get on and do this and just be real. So give us some things that your mom or your dad, have done, and they with good intentions, because they love you. You're not questioning that. And they're looking out the best for you. But you're like, yeah, good try, but that was a fail.
Well, one that just came to mind, and my dad's not here to defend himself, but recently, as in like the past couple months, we've had some problems as far as dress code goes for me. And one time I went to school in this pair of shorts that my dad didn't approve of, but because my school has a strict dress code, I was trying to tell him, like, these are the only things I can find to wear to this event, otherwise I'll get in trouble and stuff like that. And he was saying, they're too short, they have to be longer than my underwear. If they're not longer than my underwear, you can't wear them. And
I think that's a good rule. That's a good rule. If I kind of got your dad's back on that. If your shorts aren't longer than your underwear, then yeah.
No, longer than his. Not longer than...
Well, longer than his underwear. Okay, that changes
that
things.
resulted in him telling me that I can't wear the cheer shorts that I wear anymore that I've been wearing for the past 5 years and stuff like that when I go to games. And
okay, how many years did you just say? The past how many years?
5 years.
Okay, can I interject to this? Is this part? No,
I know. I've obviously grown throughout 5 years. I mean, I haven't grown that
Bodies
much.
change in 5 years.
But the length.
So your mom is saying you didn't have a butt 5 years ago, so it didn't matter.
Okay, maybe not 5 years. The past 3 years, I've stayed relatively the same.
Okay.
And I haven't bought any new shorts. So we had this giant freak out moment where me and my dad didn't really talk for like a day because I was basically offended. Like, do you really think I'm gonna be wearing this if I didn't have to? That kind of thing. And I definitely can see like where he was coming from and his concern for me in that moment. But at the same time, he basically gave me like the silent treatment because I didn't switch shorts right away. And so like I don't know, that was definitely a fail on his part. But it resulted in me understanding like his. So the
fail part was just that you wish he would have approached you differently about what you were wearing. And
I know he's a dad, and dads are supposed to be protective about their daughters and stuff like that. But just the closed-mindedness to the way fashion is today was a little bit frustrating.
Okay, so you would have rather he approached with a little bit more understanding. Instead, he probably reacted like I react when I see my own daughters wearing things inappropriate, and it is that knee-jerk, kind of, oh, no, you didn't, kind of comes out of me. Like, no, you're not leaving the house in that. Okay, got it. So good. Anything else? Anything else comes to your mind?
I have a funny one, and this is not about Cora. This is actually about my oldest daughter, but it does apply as far as the epic fails go. This Valentine's, I asked my oldest daughter this question: what were any of our big fails? And she said, well, this is something really recent, and I just feel like I have to tell y'all. I was like, okay. She's 20 now, right?
Yeah.
And it was Valentine's Day. It had been Valentine's Day a couple days before, and she said, this is the first time that Dad has never sent me anything.
Oh.
Yes.
That's been like a tradition for years.
Okay, but that's because she was out of the house.
She's out of the house,
and
but he's always sent her something. He's always sent her a note. And I had been out of town that week, but I had reminded my husband and had gone and got gifts for all the kids and stuff. And
she gets stuff for the boys. He gets stuff for all the girls.
Yes, except in the ninja fashion of mamahood, I got the girls' stuff and had my husband write the note to them. And so we kind of double teamed it, right? And she said that, and I had forgotten her too. I wasn't thinking about her, right?
Yeah.
That was the reality of it. And she teared up on the phone, and I was like, oh my goodness, we did forget. And it was a really critical year for her, because even though she has a boyfriend right now, they had agreed to not celebrate Valentine's. So on that day when she always got something, she got nothing. And I had to quickly call my husband and say, you forgot to send her a Valentine, and it meant so much to her. Well, the funny thing is, he was golden. He had sent something. He goes, I sent something. I sent a letter. She didn't get it. So he had sent a gift card with a letter through her email, had gone to her spam mail. So I was able to circle back around and say, Daddy just sent you something.
I'm going to make that mistake. I know it now. Because it's out of sight, out of mind for me.
But it was really cool. We learned a great thing. And that little gift on a regular basis really spoke a lot of comfort to her. And I think she was surprised by how much it meant to her when it wasn't there. Yeah. And so it was
cool.
good.
That's cool. So on that note, what is a win? Any sort of thing you're like, all right, my parents really got this right. Even though I don't give them credit for it.
One from this year was right before homecoming time. Me and my parents decided for me that I wasn't supposed to take a date this year because I'm a freshman. And that was kind of a hard thing for me to swallow. But on the night of homecoming, when I was getting ready with my friend, I walked downstairs and there was a corsage and a letter on my bed. And my dad had gone out, and I think, did you help him pick out the corsage? They had picked it out for me, and he wrote this really cute note and put it on me for the homecoming dance. So I wore it with me as long as I could until Andrew started flipping me around while I was dancing. But then I still have it. I dried it out and kept it, but that was definitely a big part for me. Even though it was a way for me to understand, he knows that I'm in pain right now because I didn't get to do this thing that I wanted to do, but he's trying to do his best to support me nevertheless. So that was a big win.
Right. So it sounded like you recognizing that you have a emotional need and different needs, and even though you weren't allowed to go meet those needs in the way you wanted them met, but there's still a recognition of I want to come around and support you and let you know you're loved. That's awesome. You think would you think she was gonna say that, or what would you think? No, I didn't. As a parent, you're like, man, I know I got this right, even if they don't recognize it.
I really hope that meant something to her, actually,
good.
Because it was hard. It was hard work. I mean, even going out to, when we went to the florist, we went together. My husband and I did, and we knew it meant a lot to her to have a date, and we weren't allowing it. And it's hard to be the bad guy. Yeah. It's hard to say no to your kids. It's really hard to say no to your kids. And Cora is definitely one who, because her siblings have gone ahead of her, it's easy for them to want what they have had, right? Even though they all had to wait to a certain degree too. But anyway, when we went to the florist that day, they didn't have a whole lot of options, so we went to another store, and then they had some options, and it was just a pain. It was a pain to do it, but we knew it was so important. So we tried, but sometimes you don't get to hear the fruit of that, and this is the first time I really heard that, so that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. That's awesome. Well, in kind of the same note here, where do you, when you're looking at, because we're all in community with other parents who are trying to have relationships with their daughters, why do you think a lot of parents struggle with their teen daughters? Where is it something that's on the parent side? Do you see common mistakes that are being made, or like Cora, maybe your friends, are they all complaining about the same kind of thing with their parents? Where do we feel like parents might be falling into some common pitfalls with this age bracket?
Well, as far as the teenage girls side of the relationship, I definitely see a lot of misunderstanding on my side of the equation, which is that a lot of times teenage girls assume that their mom has forgotten what it's like to be a teenager kind of thing, and so they'll go off about, she doesn't understand this, blah, 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 and I also experienced the same thing of not feeling understood, but I had other sisters, and I saw my mom trying to, struggling to try and keep their relationships intact, especially with my younger sister. And so me being in the middle, I could see how invested she was in their relationship. So I had kind of an advantage over my friends. But I think it's a big misconception that teenage girls have, which is that they're misunderstood completely by their moms. And yes, we struggle in different ways now, but at the heart of the things that we struggle, like my mom said, they have similarities. And so it's easy to not realize that, but it definitely plays a big role in feeling misunderstood, like thinking that they haven't gone through this thing when really you just haven't seen the full picture of it.
Sophie, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think that I think that it's normal to struggle because your kiddo is growing up and they are needing to try to find who they are. I mean, that's definitely a real big part of it. And there does feel like this great big chasm between what they're experiencing and what you as a mom are dealing with. And actually there is a huge chasm because we have forgotten what it's like. And it's that persistent teen, which Cora has been super persistent about. This is what I'm struggling with, and actually they clam up a lot and they grow distant. And that's really hard because as a mom, they weren't distant from you. And now all of a sudden they are, and you have trouble figuring out how to reach their heart. And it gets really weird really fast. And all you want is for things to go back to how they were, but things aren't going back to how they were. Things are trying to move to a new place. And I think that's scary for both mom and teen. And I think sons and mothers go through that too, but we go through it differently. With daughters, there's this real feeling. It can get so intense that there's this real feeling of, do we even like each other anymore? Right? And I think that sometimes we cannot be prepared for how deep those feelings can feel. And it's just really upsetting. It's upsetting because as a mom, you're in a very tense time of your life where you're going through different things, different changes. You're not young anymore either, and you're not handling everything the way you would normally handle. I think there's a lot of shame. I think a lot of moms end up, and I can admit this for myself, we end up flying off the handle and getting sucked into some of the behaviors that we're seeing ourselves. And then we regret, why didn't I handle that better? Right? And so you just really do a lot of backpedaling and, a lot of apologizing and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's end with this last kind of thought. What do you think is the biggest thing that parents need to get right when it comes to parenting teenage girls? Like if all else fails, I think we need to get at least this right. And so if you can jump into, go ahead, Cora. Go ahead.
Definitely a big thing for me has been from the teenagers' point of view. I've needed my parents to understand that I'm not going to be able to always go to them for help through my problems. Like I'm going to need the space to go to people like role models from cheer and my friend groups and have them be okay with me not going to them for things, because there are times where your relationship is really tense. And so even though this is something that like my mom or dad would want to walk through with me, I'm not always in a place where I can let them in to that area of my life. And so for my friends are a huge part of my life. And so what I've had to be stressing lately is that I'm going to need the privacy to talk to my friends about this thing, but not talk to you yet because I'm not in a place to reveal this to you, kind of thing.
And that's a scary place for a parent.
Yeah.
Be able to give that rope and be crossing our fingers and praying and hoping, oh my God, I hope my kid makes the right choice. Right. And is listening to the right voices.
Yep. But I feel like I'm really fortunate to have my sisters and really good friends as a support group because, yes, there are things that you just aren't prepared for, and that's one of them. It's kind of weird though because with my oldest daughter, I really did appreciate and value the investment of other people in her life, I looked for that. I looked for mentors that were able to pour into her life. And I've done the same with Cora, but they're two different kids. And the problem with it has been that Cora she's much more friend-based. Not that my oldest wasn't. She had a lot of friends as well, but Cora thrives on it in a different way. So their opinion means a lot to her. And I get afraid because I don't necessarily, she has a lot of teachers right now because she's at the charter school and they are pouring into her life, but I don't actually know her teachers. And it's kind of different because when I was homeschooling, I knew the people who were pouring into my daughter's life, and I felt like I had a pulse on that. And so I could stand back. But without knowing those influencers, it's a little bit less comfortable, I would say.
So what, as a parent, what do you think is the one thing you feel like between you and your husband, like, we got to get this right?
Yeah, I was just talking to my husband about this yesterday, and I think that is continuing to find the things that your kid does well and call them out on those things, despite the things that are troubling you or frustrating you. I really do think that whatever is praiseworthy, that came to mind. Whatever is praiseworthy, that needs to be spoken of louder than the things that you're in disagreement about. And so, yeah, that was something that was just dawning on me yesterday. So I could definitely do better at that.
That's good. That reaffirms actually the same thing that I'm feeling, that as a parent, it's easy for us to quickly call out the negative, but not be as loud about the positive. Right. If the negative is louder and more frequent, it drowns out any of the positive that ever comes. And so it's really hard to switch that, but I think you're right. I think it's so important that we look at our relationship with our sons and daughters and are intentional about calling out the good, because there's so many good things. And we often take those for granted and don't say anything. Yeah. But then yell.
Well, and I was talking to my husband about that because we just got back from this tournament where we had to be up early every single morning. I'm talking like 5:30, 6:38 in the morning, and be on the road, very quickly. And Cora was with her older brothers who are 18, and she was on top of things. She knew what she was wearing. She was the first one up. No one ever had to wake her up. She was fully ready to go, not forgetting anything. I mean, and I told my husband the other day, I said, that girl is on fire. She knows how to get the job done when she needs to get the job done. And I really did say this to him. I didn't say it to her yet, but I'll say it to you now, is that she does a much better job of that in her time management. When it really matters, she does a great job at it. And I was super impressed. So I was super impressed, Cora.
Good job, Cora.
She was.
I did accidentally leave my makeup at the tournament one of the days, and tried to get everyone out of the house early because I was like, I don't want many people to see me like this. But there were no problems. I didn't have to prod her, get her up, and we were going to bed late every night. So it was impressive.
You guys did awesome. This is great. I think this was super insightful for a lot of parents, and even for teens. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. I could see us doing this again and again. Maybe we should interview all 9 of your kids, Sophie, one at a time, and so they can each share their own fail. How would that make you feel? That'd be good.
So interesting. Yeah, I could just that'd be good.
You guys are amazing. If you'd like any more information about parenting, teens, relationships, or if you're stuck out there and are wanting to know what you need to do to kind of deepen your relationship with your teens, daughters or sons, reach out to us. We'd love to start a conversation and see, how we can help. But thanks for listening.